Good day, my dear students. I would like to introduce myself. I am your teacher for today, Sir John, together with my co-teachers, Teacher Nancy, Sir B, Teacher Krista, me myself, Sir John, Teacher Eldin, and Teacher Kiana.
Okay, class, before we dive into our discussion, let's have our motivational activity first. And this game is called Pick a Magic Door. So we have here 5 doors, and each door consists of a question. You have to pick one door and see what is the question behind of each door. Okay, anyone? Yes, Rachel. Okay. What number of door you want to pick? Okay, door number 4. Let's see what is the question. Okay, we have here jumbled letters. What do you think is the answer for this? Yes, transparency and accountability. Let's check. Okay, the answer is transparency and accountability. That's right, very good. Next. Okay, yes. Okay, door number 2. Okay, what do you think is the answer for this? Data and privacy? Okay, that's right. The answer is data and privacy. Very good. Next, we only have 3 doors left. Door number 1, 3, and 5. Yes, Mira. Okay, door number 5. Okay, here are the jumbled letters. Okay. Advertising and marketing. Let's see. Okay, very good. Advertising and marketing is the right answer. Now, for our 4th door, who wants to choose? Yes, Juliana. Okay, door number 3. What do you think is the answer? Personal information. Okay. Okay, that's right, Juliana. Nicely done. It is personal information. And for the last one, yes, Zelina. Okay. Educational technology. Okay, let's see if that's correct. Very good. Educational technology. That is for our motivational activity. So these words are all connected to our lesson. And let's now proceed to our discussion.
Today, we will be discussing the topic guidelines for a responsible educational future. But before we proceed with the actual guidelines, I would like to ask you a question. Do you agree that education shapes the future? Okay, so I can see that a lot of you agree with the statement. And with that, I would like to share you a phrase. A great power comes with a great responsibility. As we move forward, we must ensure that our educational systems promotes not just knowledge but also values the elements like inclusivity, integrity, and sustainability. And with technology playing an increasingly central role in education, it is crucial that we use these tools responsibly. Today, we will be sharing key guidelines that can help us build a responsible and meaningful future for education, one that harnesses technology to prepare not only the minds but also the hearts of our learners. So, let's start with the first one, privacy and data security. I guess it is not your first time encountering these terminologies or words. So, with that, allow me to read the first bullet. Data privacy is a cornerstone of ethical edtech. This bullet emphasizes that protecting users' personal information is a fundamental principle in using educational technology. It emphasizes that ethical edtech practices must prioritize the privacy and security of students and teachers' data. And let's proceed with the second bullet. Educational institutions, tech companies, and policymakers must collaborate to safeguard students' personal information. So, as you can observe here, there's a lot to mention here. And this bullet highlights the need for teamwork among schools, technology providers, and government leaders to ensure students' personal data is protected. It stresses that data privacy is a shared responsibility, not just the duty of one group. Okay, and let's proceed with the third bullet. The Cambridge Analytica scandal served as a stark reminder of how data can be exploited for political or commercial gain. If you are not familiar with the Cambridge Analytica scandal was a major data privacy controversy that erupted in the year 2018, involving the unauthorized harvesting of personal data from millions of Facebook users. And the bullet number 4, allow me to read it again. EdTech providers should follow stringent data protection regulations and ethical guidelines. So, EdTech providers must follow the stringent, meaning strict and precise data protections, laws, and ethical standards. They handle sensitive student information, so strong safeguards are essential. This builds trust and ensures technology supports learning, not risk it. Okay? And the last bullet, one notable example is the General Data Protection Regulation or GDPR in Europe, which empowers individuals with more control over their personal data. The GDPR is a European law that protects data by giving individuals more control over how their information is used. It ensures people can access, correct, and request the deletion of their data while requiring companies to ensure or to secure data and get clear consent before collecting it. So this regulation sets a global standard rather for privacy and data protection. And now we will be moving forward to the second one, the equity and inclusivity. And I also guess that it is not your first time encountering the word equity and also the term inclusivity. Okay? Allow me to read the first bullet. Ensuring that technology doesn't exacerbate educational inequalities is vital. This bullet emphasizes that ensuring technology doesn't worsen educational inequalities means making EdTech accessible to all students, regardless of their background, and preventing it from widening the gap between those with more resources and those with less resources. And the second bullet, allow me to read this bullet again. EdTech should be designed with inclusivity in mind. This bullet emphasizes that educational technology should be created to be accessible and beneficial for all students, including those with diverse needs and abilities. It stresses the importance of considering inclusivity when developing educational technology tools or edtech tools. And the third bullet, for instance, closed captioning and screen readers make online content accessible to those with disabilities. This sentence provides examples of how EdTech can be made inclusive. Closed captioning helps those with hearing impairments, while screen readers assist individuals with visual impairments. Ensuring online content is accessible to everyone. And next bullet, additionally, low-income students must have equal access to technology and the internet. The sentence or this bullet highlights the need for low-income students to have the same access to technology and the internet, as their peers. It stresses that access to these resources is essential for ensuring equal opportunities and education. And lastly, initiatives like One Laptop Per Child aim to bridge the digital divide by providing affordable technology to underserved communities. So these efforts help ensure that every child, no matter their background is, has should have access to digital learning tools and opportunities. And now let's proceed with the next one.
Now let's proceed to the third guideline in a responsible educational future. So the third guideline is algorithmic bias and fairness. So algorithms, when we say algorithms, these are the set of instructions or rules in a computer, in a laptop, or on the internet. So these play a pivotal role in personalized learning. However, they can perpetuate bias if not carefully designed. And a very good example of this one is the famous case is the ProPublica investigation into the Compass Risk Assessment Tool. So this Compass Risk Assessment Tool assess the likelihood of the defendant or of an individual to become a recidivist or a repeated offender in the future. And it disproportionately labeled black defendants as high risk. So as we can see here, because of the skin color of the black people, because of the stereotype towards them, because of the prejudice towards the black people, they found out, or I mean, the black defendants has a higher risk in becoming a recidivist in the future. And to ensure that this will not happen in any website or in any application in the educational technology field, EdTech developers must meticulously assess their algorithms to ensure that they do not perpetuate bias, favoring a fair educational experience for all. And this is just a hypothetical question. For example, you are an owner of an educational technology company, or you are a web developer of this educational technology company. How will you ensure that your website or your application is for everyone without any biases that ensures fairness as well? Again, how will you ensure that your website is for everyone without any biases and ensures fairness? And because as we all know, students are not born equally. Some of the students are underprivileged, whereas some of the students are privileged enough. So how will you ensure as well that your website or your application is for everyone? It is for the underprivileged students and for the privileged students. Now let's proceed to the fourth guideline, which is transparency and accountability. To build trust, the companies should be transparent about how their systems work. And if there is a lack of transparency, it can lead to distrust and fear, as in with the controversy surrounding TikTok's algorithm. So the issue or the controversy before with TikTok is that since TikTok is founded by the Chinese government, there is an issue that the TikTok company is using or is leaking our data to the Chinese government, and the Chinese government is using our data for their personal use. And to ensure that there is no distrust or fear to the public, TikTok should be transparent enough on how their systems work or on how our data are collected, because as we can see here, a clear understanding of how data is collected, used, and shared in educational technology is crucial for parents, students, and educators. Again, the purpose of transparency again is to build trust between the company, between the educational technology company and the users of that website or application. And if they are not transparent enough on how our data are collected, used, and shared, then they should be held accountable for their inappropriate actions. And again, just a hypothetical question. For example, you are a web developer or an owner of an educational technology company. How will you ensure that your website or your application is transparent enough to the users?
Good evening, everyone. Today we'll be having a discussion about pedagogical effectiveness. So what is pedagogical effectiveness? this is how the facilitator use different activities for the students to engage during the discussion. So, but of course, those engagement activities should be aligned to EdTech or educational technology, or for us to know what is the goal that needs to be enhanced of the student. So these are the examples of the methods that makes the pedagogical effective. So first is encompass the theory and practice of teaching. Second is focusing on how knowledge and skills are impacted to the learners. And lastly is the use of various strategies and techniques. So what are the apps or the technologies that can be used for us, future facilitator or facilitator, can let the activity engage her, or for us the student to engage in the activity. So you can use a Kahoot, Canva, quizzes, or Quizlet, or badges also, and a lot of apps that can be used for your student to participate during your discussion. Next one is we will be discussing the ethical advertising and marketing. So what is ethical advertising and marketing? So this refers to the promoting of products and services in a way that is honest, fair, and respectful to consumers and to the society. So here is the meaning of it, and the importance of it are truthfulness, transparency, respect for privacy, non-discrimination, and social responsibility. So those are the things that you need or you'll be able to get when you are using a technology that will be used in front of your class or for your discussion.
Good day everyone, so let us now proceed to the long-term societal impact. So it is essential to consider the long-term consequences of EdTech adoption. For example, the rise of online charter schools has prompted debates about the future of traditional brick-and-mortar education. So policymakers must weigh the societal impact and sustainability of these shifts in education, ensuring that the benefits outweigh the drawback. So when we say long-term societal impact and responsible educational future means preparing them to make meaningful contribution to the society, and this involves equipping them with skills such as problem-solving skills, adaptability, and leadership, which is essential for navigating future challenges. And it also encourages students to think critically about social issues like injustice, environmental sustainability, and global citizenship. By fostering these qualities, education can empower students to create positive change in their communities and the world over the long term. So let us now proceed to professional development and programs. So educator needs proper training to effectively use EdTech in their teaching practices. Okay, so neglecting the aspect can lead to suboptimal result and misuse of technology. So ongoing professional development programs and support are essential to harness the full potential of EdTech in the classroom. So when we say professional development and training program, it is for educators. For example, for us, it is essential for our future educators. It involves ongoing learning opportunities for educators like us to enhance our skills and stay updated on teaching methods and addressing the evolving needs of students. So it is important that we need to study and undergo training about the updated or the new methods that they are using in educational technology.
So, open educational resources, or OER, these are the freely accessible educational materials that play a vital role in promoting ethical practices within the educational technology or EdTech. So these resources enhance affordability and provide equitable access to quality education globally. Initiatives such as MIT's Open Coursewave and the Khan Academy have significantly contributed to creating an open and inclusive educational ecosystem by offering free access to educational content OER supports learners of diverse backgrounds and fosters lifelong learning opportunities. And the next one is feedback and continuous improvement. So these are essential practices for edtech companies aiming to refine and enhance their platforms because these companies prioritize gathering input from students and educators to identify the areas for their development. For example, platforms like Coursera and edX, they utilize regular surveys and feedback mechanisms to obtain valuable insights from the users.
Now let's proceed to the last guideline for a responsible educational future, which is the environmental sustainability. The environmental impact of edtech hardware and data centers cannot be overlooked. As teachers, we are considered as the primary consumers and users of technology because we integrate technology in our teaching strategies in each of our class. And with that being said, we cannot deny that technology consumes high level of energy that can contribute to the greenhouse gas emission and to the climate change. Aside from that, the process of producing the materials for technology contributes to the water pollution. That is why we should be a responsible user of technology because it is part of our everyday life as teachers. It is our strategies to effectively teach our students. It is integrated to our each lessons. And with that being said, we should prioritize equity, fairness, transparency, and pedagogical effectiveness and where we can harness the full potential of educational technology while minimizing its potential pitfalls. So, this guideline is an aid for us to be a responsible um, user of technology because we should always have in mind, we should always consider the impact of consuming technology every day and all day to our environment, okay, because it can harm our environment. Using technology can have either a positive impact and also negative impact. That is why we should be mindful and responsible user and consumer of technology because we always use educational technologies in our classes. So those are the 11 guidelines for a responsible educational future. Okay, so to aggregate all these 11 guidelines for a responsible educational future, let's recall them one by one. Let's start with the first one, which is the privacy and data security, which highlights data protection. Of course, as teachers, we gathered information about our students. We collect their basic information. And although those are basic information, we should be the one protecting them because those data are important to our students. And we should be um, careful in sharing those information and we should only be share those information and give access about those information to the people that we trusted. Second is the equity and inclusivity, which stresses the easy access to online content. Of course, as teachers, it is our role to make it more easier for our students to access the information that they must learn easily. Third is algorithmic bias and fairness, which highlights fair educational experience. Of course, by utilizing or in utilizing technology, we should ensure that each of our students are having a fair educational experience. Fourth is transparency and accountability, which accentuate honesty about data collection. So, as teachers, since we are gathering the information of our students, we must be transparent about their information. We should allow them to know what are the informations that we collected about them. Fifth is the pedagogical effectiveness, which highlights alignment of EdTech to educational goals. Of course, as part of education system and as a teacher, we have these education goals, and utilizing technology should be aligned to those education goals that we want to or we aim to achieve for the betterment of our students. Next is ethical advertising and marketing, which stresses responsible promotion of edtech products. So this guideline is more applicable to the edtech companies. However, since we teachers are the ones who applied or who uses educational technologies in our classroom, we should also advertise um, the product or the technologies to our students ethically. Next is the long-term societal impact, which stresses consider long-term consequences. We as teachers should be aware that everything that we present to our students are information wherein they can learn from. So we should be aware of the long-term consequences of the technology to our students and to the content that we are sharing to our students. So as teachers, it is important for us, it is crucial to us that we should be mindful about the societal impact of using or utilizing technology and sharing the information that the students must learn from us through technology. Next is the professional development and training, which emphasize a proper training for using edtechs. Of course, as teachers, as I've said a while ago, we are the primary consumer of um, uh, educational technologies. So we are expected to be more knowledgeable about navigating or utilizing technology. So we should go, it is a must for us as teachers to undergo a proper training for utilizing a technology. Next is the open educational resources, which means accessible educational materials. So, since we're talking about technology, as we said, technology make it more convenient or easier for us to access the information. That is why there are websites that provides accessible educational materials where that we can use to as our instructional materials to teach our students and to meet the needs of our students. Next is feedback and continuous improvement. So this guideline is also more applicable to the edtech companies. However, as teachers who are consumers of technologies, particularly educational technologies, we should also seek feedback from our students if they are actually learning um, because of the use of technology or because of the integration of technology during class, or they are just distracted to the technology that we are using. And for the last one is environmental sustainability, which emphasize environmental friendly ethics. So um, as users of technology, we should be aware of what kind of technology or application or educational technologies we use in each of our class. So this guideline is a reminder for us to use and to choose what technology, to choose friendly educational technologies in each of our classes. So that's all for our discussion today, class. I hope you learned something today. So thank you for listening. For our quiz, we will be sending the link of our quiz in our GC. Thank you.